Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Learn Social with Ram. I hope all of you are doing well. Today we are starting one of the most important chapters in class 10 social science from part 1 history, the advent of Europeans to India. This chapter is extremely important for board examinations. Questions frequently appear from this lesson in the format of MCQ, 1 mark, 2 mark as well as for 3 mark question. Why wait? Let's get into the chapter. Before we start the chapter, let us try to understand the various learning objectives that we'll be able to learn by the end of this chapter. Firstly, we'll be able to learn the trade and commerce relationship India had with the Europeans. We'll also try to understand the arrival of Europeans to India for the sake of trade. Next, we will be able to understand the various Carnatic wars in the backdrop of European political developments. Then we'll understand the causes and effects of the very famous Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar and dual government system which was introduced by Robert Clive. Followed by which, we'll conclude the chapter by understanding the British policy of aggression. Why do you think powerful European countries like Portugal, England, France and Holland travelled thousands of kilometers to reach India? Was it for gold? Was it for land? Or was it for something else? The answer is very surprising. They came mainly for the sake of trade. Exactly. The answer is trade. The trade relations between India and Europe existed since ancient time. India was famous worldwide for spices like pepper, cinnamon, cardamom as well as ginger. India was also famous worldwide for cotton, silk, precious stones as well as handicrafts. Indian goods were always in great demand. At that time, India was one of the richest regions in the world. That is why India was also often called the Golden Bird. Now the question is, how did goods reach Europe? There was a trade network established. Arab merchants transported their goods from India and Asia to Constantinople. From Constantinople, the Italian merchants from Venice and Genoa sold them across Europe at high prices. So both Arab as well as Italian traders earned huge profits. But there was one problem. Too many middlemen were involved. Each middleman increased the price. By the time it reaches Europe, the price becomes very heavy. Still, Europeans brought it because demand was huge. Now let's try to understand the fall of Constantinople. Before that, there is one possible question from this section. The question is, why Constantinople was referred as the gateway of European trade? And also remember, Arabs held monopoly over Asian trade, the Italians held monopoly over the European trade. What do you mean by monopoly? Monopoly is nothing but complete power or a control on particular product or service and there is no competition. So one person or group has the complete power or the control over a product or a service and there is no competition. Now comes a major turning point in the world history. In the year 1453, the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople. This changed everything. All the important trade routes came under Turkish control. The Turk imposed heavy taxes on goods passing through these routes. As a result, trade became expensive, profits reduced, as well as European traders suffered losses. This event forced European countries to search for a new sea route to India. Now, European countries like Portugal, Spain started encouraging sailors to discover a new sea route to India. This period is also called the Age of Exploration. Several inventions helped sailors. For example, compass, astrolabe, improved ships as well as gunpowder. These inventions made long-distance sea travel possible. Students, think about this. Today we have GPS and modern technology. But in those days, sailors traveled through unknown oceans without such facilities. It was extremely risky. You can expect a 2-marker question from this topic. Scientific discoveries led to the invention of new sea route to India. Justify. Or question also can be asked in the format of what are the various reasons for the invention of geographical discoveries. You can write the points like fall of Constantinople, to break the monopoly of Arab and Italian traders, encouragement by Spain, Portugal and European rulers, inventions that provided impetus such as compass, astrolabe and gunpowder. Now let us try to understand the discovery of new sea route to India. Portugal accepted this challenge. A Portuguese sailor named Vasco da Gama began his journey from Lisbon. He travelled around the southern tip of South Africa called the Cape of Good Hope. After months of difficult travel in 1498, Vasco da Gama reached Kapad near Calicut on the west coast of India. This discovery changed Indian history forever. It opened the door for European powers to enter India. Vasco da Gama met the ruler of Calicut called the Zamorin. This marked the beginning of direct sea trade between India and Europe. And remember, they are the first Europeans to re-establish trade with India. Question can be asked, who discovered the new sea route to India for 1 marker and when? And question also can be asked, who were the first Europeans to re-establish trade with India? Know this? In 1869, the Suez Canal was built through Egypt, connecting the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, replacing Vasco da Gama's Cape of Good Hope route. Now, let's try to understand the various European trading companies that came to India. European nations established formal trading companies with royal charters granting exclusive trading and eventually political and military powers. Followed by Portuguese, we had British East India Company from England. They established their trading centers at Surat, Madras, Bombay, Calcutta. Then we have Dutch East India Company from Netherlands. They established their company at 1602. They established their key centers in Surat, Cochin, Nagapattinam. Then we have French East India Company from France. They established their company in and around 1664. The key centers in India are Pondicherry, Chandranagore and Mahe. Now let's try to understand each European country in depth. The Portuguese were the first to arrive and the last to leave the sea route, dominating Indian Ocean trade for nearly a century. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to arrive in India for trade. They soon became powerful. For almost 1 century, they dominated trade with India. Now let us study important Portuguese leader. Firstly, we have Francisco de Almeida. Francisco de Almeida came to India as the first Portuguese viceroy. He introduced the famous policy called Blue Water Policy. This is very important. What is Blue Water Policy? It means controlling the sea to control trade. Almeida believed that instead of capturing land, controlling sea routes would give them trade dominance. Simple meaning, control the sea is equal to control business. This policy helped Portuguese strengthen their position. Then we have our next leader, Alfonso de Albuquerque. After Almeida, Alfonso de Albuquerque became the most important Portuguese leader. He is also called the real founder of Portuguese power in India, because he expanded Portuguese control strongly. In 1510, we had Albuquerque capture Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur. Goa became the headquarters of Portuguese administration in India. Students, even today, Portuguese influence can be seen in Goa in the form of architecture, churches, food, culture. That shows the lasting impact of Portuguese rule. Then you might wonder, why did Portuguese decline? Although the Portuguese were powerful, their strength gradually declined. There were several reasons. First, corruption increased. Second, they had limited manpower. Third, there were strong competitors who arrived. Who are they? They are basically Dutch, English, followed by French. These new powers challenged Portuguese dominance. Slowly, Portuguese influence declined. Before we move into the next topic, let's do a quick recap. I want you guys to pause the video and answer the question for the questions asked. Let us revise what we learned. India had strong trade relations with Europe. Indian spices were highly valuable. Trade passed through Constantinople. Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople in 1453. Europeans searched for a new sea route. Vasco da Gama reached India in 1498. Portuguese became the first Europeans to enter India. Almeida introduced Blue Water Policy. Albuquerque captured Goa in 1510? Now answer these questions in the comment section. First question, who discovered new sea route to India? Second question, in which year did Vasco da Gama reach India? Third question, who introduced blue water policy? Fourth question, which city became Portuguese headquarters? From this stage, the competition becomes much more intense. Initially, all European powers came to India for the trade, but slowly, the trade competition became political competition. After the Portuguese, the Dutch entered India. The Dutch belonged to Holland, also known as Netherlands. To expand trade with the eastern countries, they established the Dutch East India Company in 1602. They established factories in many important places such as Surat, Cochin, Nagapatna, Machilipatna, Chinsura, etc. The Dutch wanted to dominate the spice trade in Kerala. But they faced strong resistance from an Indian ruler, and the famous ruler name is Raja Martanda Varma. He ruled Travancore from 1729 to 1758. He was a brave and intelligent ruler. He strengthened his kingdom and resisted foreign powers. He made this as a great kingdom among all. He stood against the foreigners who were greedy of pepper and brought many reforms in administration. Firstly, he shifted his capital from Padmanabhapura to Tiruvanantapura and made his kingdom as World Travancore province. By this time, the Dutch, who were trying to monopolize, was defeated by Martanda Varma. He controlled the surrounding areas and made them to oppose the Dutch. However, the Dutch, with the help of the provinces like Kayamkullam, Kochi, Purakkad and Vadakunkur, attacked on Travancore. Raja Martanda Varma defeated them and captured Nedumangada and Kottarakara trading centers. In 1741, the Dutch declared war on Travancore with Kottarakara province in the forefront. However, Martanda Varma's army strongly sent it back. The Dutch suffered huge losses. This became a historic victory because soon Dutch influence declined. The main reasons for the Dutch decline was the focus shifted to Indonesia, the rise of the English power, as well as the strong local resistance. And this topic on Martanda Varma is very, very important for your board examination, and it is important for your upcoming midterm examination as well. The question can be asked as, explain how Martanda Varma checked the Dutch, and it can be asked for 3 marks or 4 mark question. Now since we have learnt about the Dutch, now let's try to understand more about English. This section is extremely important because the English later became the rulers of India. The English East India Company was established on 31st December 1600. Queen Elizabeth issued a royal charter allowing trade with the eastern countries. The English officially started trade in India in 1613. Thus, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir gave permission to establish the first English factory at Surat. The Surat became the first major English trading center in India. Later in 1617, Sir Thomas Roy came to Jahangir's court as an ambassador. He requested permission to establish more factories. Jahangir agreed. The English established factories at Agra, Ahmedabad as well as Broch. Observe one thing, students, here. The English were patient and strategic. They built trade relations carefully. They planned for a long-term growth. The English gradually expanded their influence. In 1639, they acquired Madras from the king of Chandragiri. There, they built St. George Fort. This became an important English center. Later, Bombay became another major center, which was actually gifted by Charles II in the year 1668. In 1690, the English purchased 3 villages, Sutanutti, Calcutta and Govindapura. They built Fort William there. This led to the development of Calcutta. By the end of 17th century, the English had established 3 major centers. The first one was Mumbai, followed by Madras as well as Calcutta. These became centers of English presidencies. Remember these 3 cities very, very carefully. Why did English become powerful? Because of many reasons. The first reason is the strong navy, better planning, strong financial support, political intelligence, as well as long-term strategies. The English entered India as traders, but they thought like future rulers. That made them different from other European powers. Now let's try to understand the next European country, that is the French. The French East India Company was established in 1664. Their first factory in India was also established in Surat in 1668. Later, they established factories at Machilipatnam, Chandranagar, Mahe, Karaikal, Balasore, Kasim Bazar, etc. In 1674, the French captured Pondicherry, and that became the French capital of India. Now let's try to understand the famous leader from French. His name is Dupleix. Dupleix became the Governor General of French territories in India. He was highly ambitious. He wanted to establish French supremacy in India. He understood one important thing. Indian rulers were facing political instability and succession conflicts. European powers could use these conflicts to increase their influence. Dupleix, on the other hand, was very intelligent and politically sharp. His ambition later led to major conflicts with English. Now, the major competition happens between the English and the French. Now, the competition becomes serious. The Portuguese has weakened, the Dutch had declined. The only two major powers that remained was English and the French. Both wanted control over India. Trade competition slowly turned into political competition. This political competition soon turned into military conflict. At the same time, political instability existed in Hyderabad as well as Karnataka. Both English and French used this opportunity to strengthen themselves. This eventually led to the three Carnatic Wars that took place from 1746 to 1763. This is the major turning point. Trade was no longer the only goal. Now, power became the main goal. Before we learn about the Carnatic War, let's do a quick recap. Let us revise whatever we have learned so far. Dutch East India Company established in 1602. Dutch established factories in India. Martanda Varma defeated Dutch. English East India Company re-established in 1600. First English factory was held at Surat. English developed Bombay, Madras and Calcutta. French East India Company established in 1664. Pondicherry became the French capital. Dupleix wanted French supremacy. The English and the French rivalry increased. Now pause the video and answer the below questions in the comment section. First question, in which year was Dutch East India Company established? Second question, where was first English factory established? Third question, name the three major English centers. And the fourth question, which city became French capital in India? Until now, Europeans competed through trade, but now everything changes. Trade competition turns into war. The English and French now fight for the political power. Who will win? Who will dominate South India? Carnatic Wars were a series of wars fought between English and French in South India for the political supremacy. You may also wonder why Carnatic was important. It was so important because Carnatic was rich, strategically important for South Indian trade. Whoever controlled Carnatic gained great influence in South India. That is why both English and the French wanted the control. Let's try to understand each Carnatic War in depth, starting with the very first Carnatic War that took place from 1746 to 1748. This war began because of rivalry between England and France in Europe. Its effect reached India. The French governor named Dupleix requested help from a French military leader called La Bourdonnais. La Bourdonnais attacked Madras. The French captured Madras from the English. This shocked the British. The English requested help from Anvaruddin, the Nawab of Carnatic. Anvaruddin sent his army to fight the French, but the French defeated his army easily. This proved how strong European military training was. Finally, peace negotiations took place in Europe and a treaty called Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle ended the war. Madras was written to the English. Students, remember, First Carnatic War is nothing but Madras issue. Now let's try to understand the very second Carnatic War, which took place from the year 1749 to 1754. This war is very important because both English and French directly interfered in the Indian politics. Political conflicts had started in Hyderabad and Carnatic. In Hyderabad, a conflict began over succession through the throne. In Carnatic, another conflict began. French supported Muzaffar Jung in Hyderabad and Chanda Sahib in Carnatic, whereas English supported Nazir Jung in Hyderabad and Anwaruddin and later Muhammad Ali in Carnatic. Both the powers were now using Indian rulers as the political tools. This was dangerous. In 1749, the combined forces of French and Chanda Sahib defeated Anwaruddin. Anwaruddin was killed. Chanda Sahib became Nawab of Carnatic, but the conflict did not end. Now enters an important personality and his name is Robert Clive. Robert Clive, children, please do remember his name carefully. He is one of the most important figures in Indian history. Interestingly, Robert Clive started his career as a clerk in the East India Company. He was not originally a military officer, but he proved to be bold, intelligent and highly strategic. He soon became one of the Britain's strongest leaders in India. Robert Clive attacks Arcot and this was his bold move. He attacked Arcot, the capital of Carnatic. This attack changed the war. Clive successfully captured Arcot. This shocked the French. Chanda Sahib was defeated and later killed. The English then made Muhammad Ali the Nawab of Carnatic. This greatly increased English power. Finally, the war ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry. The French government recalled Dupleix. Now the Dupleix is back. This was major setback for France. Remember, Second Carnatic War is Arcot victory. Now let's try to understand the Third Carnatic War and the final one and the most decisive war. This war decided who would dominate India. The French were led by Count de Lally. The English were led by Sir Eyre Cute. The decisive battle took place at Vandewash in 1760. This battle became the turning point. The English defeated the French completely. Bussy was captured. Lally escaped and hid in Pondicherry. Soon, the English attacked Pondicherry. Lally surrendered. This ended French military power in India completely. This is the most important result. The French lost political importance in India. Though Pondicherry was later returned to France under the Treaty of Paris, French power was never restored. English emerged victorious. The Third Carnatic War is nothing but Battle of Vandewash. You might wonder, why did the French lose? The main reasons are because of weak naval power, lack of funds, poor support from the French government, and the strong English Navy as well as better English leadership. These points you guys have to keep in mind. Now let us try to understand more about Dupleix. Who was Dupleix? Dupleix was one of the most capable French leaders in India. He had great ambition. He wanted French supremacy in India. He understood Indian political weaknesses and used them strategically. He played a major role in the Carnatic War. But despite his intelligence, France failed to support him properly. This led to the French decline. Then we also had one more character called Robert Clive. Now let's try to understand why Robert Clive deserves a special attention. He deserves a special attention because he laid the foundation of British power in India. His achievements are victory in Carnatic War, victory at Arcot. He strengthened the British position. Soon he would play an even bigger role. He would help British gain Bengal that changed Indian history forever. So this completes our recap of 3 Carnatic Wars. We saw how the English defeated the French and became the strongest European power in South India. Now the British wanted something much bigger. They wanted control over the richest province in India, and that province was Bengal. Students, this is the most important section of this chapter because this is where the traders slowly transformed into rulers. This is where British rule truly began. Let us understand why Bengal was so important. In the 18th century, Bengal was the richest province in India. It was famous for agriculture, silk, muslin, trade, revenue. Bengal generated enormous wealth. Whoever controlled Bengal would gain huge financial power. The British understood this very well. They now wanted control over Bengal. At that point of time, Sirajud-Dowla was the Nawab of Bengal. He noticed something dangerous. The British were becoming too powerful. They were expanding military strength, fortifying settlements, increasing political interference. Sirajud-Dowla opposed British activities. The conflict between British and Nawab became unavoidable. This led to one of the most famous battles in Indian history, and the battle name is Battle of Plassey. This battle changed Indian history forever. This battle was fought between Sirajud-Dowla and British East India Company led by Robert Clive. But here comes the shocking truth. The British did not win purely because of military strength. They won because of betrayal. Robert Clive secretly made an agreement with Mir Jafar, commander of Sirajud-Dowla's army. Clive promised to make Mir Jafar the Nawab of Bengal if he supported the British. During battle, Mir Jafar betrayed Sirajud-Dowla. He did not support his ruler. As a result, Sirajud-Dowla lost the battle. He was later captured and killed. Battle of Plassey was won more by politics and betrayal than by military strength. This victory laid the foundation of British rule in India. You can expect a 4-marker as well as a 3-marker question from this section. The question can be, what are the causes or reasons for the Battle of Plassey, where you will be explaining about the misuse of dastak, where the company officials misused tax-free trade licenses. The second reason is, or the cause is, fort repairs. The British fortified Calcutta without permission. And the third reason for Battle of Plassey is the Black Hole tragedy, where Sirajud-Dowla conquered Fort William easily and imprisoned some of the British. He imprisoned 146 Englishmen in a small room in the fort, of which 123 died. This is called the Black Hole tragedy. This enraged Robert Clive and arrived in Bengal with a huge army. Robert Clive attracted rich locals like Manik Chand, Nemi Chand, Jagat Seth, banker of Bengal, and others towards him. He was successful in convincing Mir Jafar, the military head of Sirajud-Dowla, to stay neutral in the battle by offering him the post of Nawab of Bengal. This encouraged by these developments, Robert Clive, he declared a war against Sirajud-Dowla. On June 23, 1757, everything went according to the plan of Clive. Sirajud-Dowla, who tried to escape from the battlefield, was captured and killed. So you guys also have to learn about the outcomes of the Battle of Plassey. The major outcomes was, this war brought out the immorality, lack of unity among the Indians and the greed of Indian businessmen. Mir Jafar became the Nawab of Bengal. The company gained exclusive rights to trade in Bengal. The next outcome was, Mir Jafar had to pay rupees 17 crores and 70 lakhs as war indemnity to the British East India Company for the attack on the Fort William by Sirajud-Dowla. This is the roadmap to the Battle of Plassey, the timeline from 1756 to 1757. In 1756, Sirajud-Dowla, he becomes the Nawab. He succeeds Alivardi Khan as Nawab of Bengal. The tensions between British begin immediately. Then we had an incident of misuse of dastak, wherein British company officials misused duty-free trade licenses called dastaks for their personal profit. And during 1756, the Fort William was fortified. The British secretly strengthened Calcutta's fort without Nawab's permission. In June 1756, the Black Hole tragedy incident happens. Siraj captures Calcutta. 123 out of 146 British prisoners die in Fort William's dungeon. In the early 1757, Clive bribes Mir Jafar. Robert Clive secretly negotiates with Mir Jafar, the Siraj's commander, to betray the Nawab. And in June 23, 1757, the Battle of Plassey, the epic battle, takes place where Mir Jafar stays neutral. Sirajud-Dowla is defeated and later he was killed. The British emerges victory. And this is the alliance and the betrayal flow which was followed in Battle of Plassey. Another very important battle is Battle of Buxar, which took place in the year 1764. It was fought between the British East India Company and a combined force of Mir Jafar, who was the Nawab of Bengal, Sujauddawla, Nawab of Awadh, and Shah Alam II, Mughal Emperor. The battle took place at Buxar in the present-day Bihar. The British army led by Hector Munro defeated this powerful alliance. This victory was very significant because it established British dominance in the eastern India. Mir Qasim, who was an efficient administrator, in the beginning he remained loyal to the company. He paid 2 lakh pounds to the company and gave away a few places to it. Shortly afterwards, he declared himself an independent king. After verifying the misuse of dastak, he declared all the business was duty free in Bengal. Indians competed against the British in all spheres of business. As a result, the British trade suffered continuously. This was enough for the British to oppose Nawab. They brought in Mir Jafar again and dethroned Mir Qasim. As Mir Qasim knew the cunningness of the British, he went for an organized war against them. He was supported by the Indian merchants and artisans. Mir Qasim entered into agreements with the Mughal ruler Shah Alam II, Nawab of Awadh Shujauddawla. The combined forces of Mir Qasim faced the British army led by Hector Munro at Buxar in 1764. Mir Qasim was defeated and ran away from the battlefield. Shah Alam too also got surrendered. The efforts of the combined forces to the British army failed miserably. Last year in the annual examination of 10th board, this question was asked, what are the outcomes of Battle of Buxar? So it is a very important question for 3 marks. It can be asked also for 2 marks question. The outcomes are Shah Alam II accorded Diwani rights over Bengal to British East India Company. Shah Alam II gave away all the rights over Bengal to British for an annual fee of rupees 26 lakhs. Sujauddawla, the Nawab of Awadh, had to pay war indemnity of rupees 50 lakhs for waging a war against the British East India Company. With the death of Mir Jafar, the British East India Company paid pension to his son and took over the entire administration of Bengal. So let us compare both Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. The cause, the key factor, when did the battle happen, what is the effect, and what is the significance. After the victory in Buxar, British gained major advantages. Most importantly, they obtained Diwani rights. What is Diwani rights? Diwani rights means the right to collect land revenue. The Mughal emperor granted Diwani rights to the British for Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. This gave enormous wealth to the British. Now the British had financial control. This made them even stronger. And this system was also called as dual government system in Bengal, which was introduced by Robert Clive. It means two authorities ruled together. The British controlled the revenue collection, whereas the Nawab controlled the administration and law and order. Let us simplify. British had financial power, Nawab had administrative responsibility. This created confusion because authority was divided, responsibility was unclear, administration became weak. Students, let's try to understand the dual government by taking example of a classroom with 2 class teachers. One as authority, another as responsibility. This creates confusion. Same happened in Bengal. Dual government failed badly. People suffered and the administration became inefficient. Now we are heading towards the last topic, that is British policy of aggression. After gaining Bengal, the British power expanded rapidly. They now started aggressive expansion across India. Their goal became clear: control more territory and control more wealth. The British used several strategies. They used diplomacy, war, alliances, political manipulation. Later, they also introduced expansion policies like subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, annexation. These policies helped British expand further. This led to large-scale British rule over India. Now let us recap. After the victory in Buxar, British gained major advantages. Most importantly, they obtained Diwani rights. Diwani means the right to collect revenue. The Mughal emperor granted Diwani rights to the British for Bengal, Bihar, Odisha. This gave enormous wealth to the British. Now the British had financial control. This made them even stronger. Now let us try to understand the dual government which was introduced from Robert Clive. You can expect a question of 1 mark. Who introduced a dual government system? The answer is Robert Clive. It means two authorities ruled together. For example, British controlled revenue collection whereas the Nawab controlled administration and law and order. To make it simple, let us try to imagine a classroom with two class teachers. One has authority, one more person has responsibility. Obviously, this will create confusion. Same thing happened in Bengal. Dual government failed badly, people suffered, and the administration became inefficient. After gaining Bengal, British power expanded rapidly. Their goal became clear: control more territory, control more wealth. The British used several strategies. For example, superior military strategy, political cunning, divide and rule, naval supremacy, financial strength, British unity versus Indian disunity, duplex was recalled, French was weakened, Diwani rights and economic control. Later, they also introduced expansion policies like subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, annexation. These policies helped British expand further. This led to the large-scale British rule over India. Let us recall the chapter timeline starting with the capture of Ottoman Turks in 1453. The sea routes were blocked, and in 1498, the Vasco da Gama reaches Calicut. The sea route to India was discovered, and in 1600, the British East India Company established, and in 1756 to 63, the Third Carnatic War, wherein the British supremacy was established, and in 1757, the Battle of Plassey, which took place where Siraj-ud-Dawla was defeated, and 1764, we had Battle of Buxar, where Mir Qasim was defeated, and in the 1765, the Diwani rights were granted and the dual government system was introduced in Bengal by Robert Clive. In 1498, Europeans came to India for trade. However, their aim was business at that point of time, but slowly things changed. Trade became competition, competition became conflict, conflict became war. War led to political control. Finally, traders became rulers. This is the biggest lesson of this chapter. The British entered India as traders but stayed as rulers. This chapter forms the base for understanding later chapters on British expansion and Indian resistance. Revise all the dates carefully, practice all the important questions. And these are the textbook exercise questions. The questions which are highlighted in bold are important for your upcoming FA1 examination, midterm, as well as the annual examination. And this is the complete chapter summary, followed by the important dates to be remembered. I want to thank everyone for watching the video till the end. This completes our very first chapter, History, the Advent of Europeans to India. If you like the content, please do like, share, subscribe, and please do comment which chapter is required for the next video. Thank you. Keep learning, keep growing. See you again in the next video. Jai Hind. This is Ram signing off.